You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Hello and welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Today we have Ryan Skinner as a guest. Ryan's story is a comeback story filled with trials and tribulations. In his 20s, he went from being in the top 1% of the financial industry to becoming a heroin addict, ultimately losing everything. Since his career comeback, he's focused his attention on helping coach other professionals who want to take their career to the next level, have been affected by crisis, and are working to recover from addiction. He also runs a management company, which we'll go into in a minute as well. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Yeah, Ryan, I was so not excited. I was so interested in your story when we first chatted that I wanted to have you on the podcast because I think it's really an amazing story of redemption. And that's always something that we want to share. So why don't you just tell us what happened when you were on Wall Street and what made you become a heroin addict?
You know, I've heard before that alcoholics are born, addicts are made because of addiction. They may be prescriptions, whatnot. I don't know if I believe that. I think there was always something in my DNA. I mean, I look back when I was a child, I had anxiety through the roof. Nobody really knew how to help me with it. And it just got worse and worse. And as I got older in high school, I was kind of a shy kid, kind of geeky. It's funny, my cousin and I went to school together, and he was like a rock star. Everybody knew him. And I was a good athlete, but somewhat social. But inside, I was shy and awkward, you know. And I never drank much because I had a relative who was an alcoholic when I was a kid, and he was very abusive. And at one point, I started drinking alone, and I just got that feeling of relief. And I remember the nights I drank, feeling like, oh my God, like, you know, I'm not a geek. I'm better looking. I'm smarter. And then college comes. And I drank pretty heavy during college. Nothing, you know, I partied like a lot of kids do in college. And then after college, I really buckled down and got my licenses for my business. See, in seventh grade, my teacher noticed I was gifted with numbers. And I didn't read well. I had dyslexia and learning disabilities. And she noticed I was a freak with numbers. So she taught me out of a book how to trade money, manage money. And I traded stock, fake money. She tracked it. And she wrote a letter to the author of the book named Peter Lynch. He was a big time finance guy at Fidelity. He took an interest. My life took off. High school vice principal, former broker, took an interest. So after college, business gets good. And I moved out of my parents' house. I bought a 2-family, but I moved in with me. Now here I am with this kid with all these insecurities, the same fears I grew up with. And now I'm living alone, and I'm in a financial business with older guys. So I'm going out for lunch and having scotch with these guys. And then I'm going home and drinking a little more. And at one point, I broke my hand in a fight. I didn't fight well. I broke my hand a few times. And I had surgery and got introduced to Percocet. And I will tell you, I remember the script, 16 Percocets. Me and my buddy Bobby would each take 2 each weekend. It was Friday nights and Saturday nights. We made them last. I didn't take it for the pain once, but we made them last and we had fun. And right then and there, I learned I love Percocet. I would check people's medicine cabinets. I would check anywhere. And I stopped buying them anywhere I could get them. And then had some major surgery with some, they found a few tumors in my stomach and I got Oxycontin and then lights out. I knew Oxycontin was dangerous because I remember guys trading their Rolex off their wrist to a kid who was like a brother to me who was involved in organized crime. And he would take their watch for one pill. They were so sick. And I used to think, God, these people are weak.
Wow.
I realized now it was a power greater than them and they were just out of control. And that was me. And suddenly over the next 3 years after that, a couple of houses, couple of cars, relationships, friendships, 401ks, bank money, everything gone. Now I've blown just close to 7 figures in cash and a couple of properties and don't have a car. And I'm out begging for money to shoot heroin. It's no longer pills because I don't have the money.
Okay. So who introduced you to heroin?
I don't remember the kid's name. It's funny. I remember there was a kid that I used to do drugs with party. We knew each other from probation. And I'd already been on oxycodone and Percocet and all that stuff. When I ran out of money, he said he was a heroin addict. He goes, don't do heroin. He goes, you'll never come back from it. I go, I'll do it. I don't care, man. He said, no, you don't want this life, man. His name was Todd. Great kid. I pray for him every day. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he's dead or alive. Probably dead. Good kid. There's another kid that we used to get, and I actually, I didn't want to buy drugs from him anymore, so I robbed him, and took all his drugs. And then one time we run into these kids again, and they're like, "You just sniff heroin, so you're not so sick." And I sniffed it.
Mm.
Then a week later, I said, "If I'm going to do it, I'm afraid of needles. I'm going to do it right." Next thing I know, I had my friend shoot me up. I'm looking away like this. Before I
Mhm.
know it, I can't wait to shoot myself. I love it. And
Mm.
I didn't do heroin very long. It brought me to my knees real quick. Some people
Mhm.
do it for years. I was down and out within a month and a half, 2 months.
Wow. Yeah, no, apparently it's a friend that usually gets people on heroin, but that first guy, Todd, was telling you not to do it. So,
Yeah, he was a good guy. I'll tell you, I pray for him every day.
wow. Okay, so then you lost everything. How did you come back?
I mean, the arrogant ego side of me will say, well, I've got this strength. I'm not that unique. I came back because God and the universe work through circumstances and through people, and you just got to be
Mm,
open to it. That's what meditation and prayer does. Now, when I'm shooting heroin, I'm not meditating or praying. I'm nodding out. But at one point, I violated. I was on probation. I kept violating it, violating a kid. Got in a knife fight with a kid, and next thing I know, I'm brought to court. My friend's the chief of probation. He kind of runs the court. And I said, man, you're not gonna. I won't use the term, but I said, you're not gonna f me. You're not gonna hold me, right?
mm, mhm,
F you. He goes, buddy, you've been out around the streets drinking everywhere. You had no money. I would go to restaurants and say, hey, put it on a tab. I don't have money right now. And
mm,
because of my reputation of being kind of a psycho, places would do it.
mm,
And next thing he's like, you screwed me, Ryan. I trusted you wouldn't be doing this stuff. He held me in jail and he set me free. When I
mm,
went to jail, my whole life changed. And then I went back to court and they ended up putting me in jail a little longer. It wasn't a long, long time. It was long enough for me to wake up and say, I don't want to live like this. And I
mm,
started praying. So in jail, my mother and I had a deal. She would send me a book. I wanted gangster books. I thought I was a tough guy. And
mhm,
she said, I'll send you one gangster book. But then I said, you a self-help book. You got to read it. And I'll read it.
mm,
So I'll know if you read it. I'll ask questions. Then I'll send you
mhm,
another gangster book. First thing she sent me was Brothers Bulger. It was about Whitey Bulger and his brother in
mhm,
Massachusetts. They were just rail thieves.
mm,
Second book was Feel the Fear, Do It Anyway. It's Susan Jaffers, a
mm,
woman who had breast cancer and got over everything. That book changed my life because I realized every fear, I was full of fear. Like when I did
mm,
recovery step work, getting sober, I have resentments. There's some people I like to take care of and slap them around. But the truth is, it's all me. I'm the problem. But I
mhm,
have a list of fears this big. And that's the crazy part. And when I read that book, so she mentioned books in her book that she had read.
mhm,
So I no longer read another tough guy book. I went every book she recommended, I read, and they recommended books. I read them, and then I got to go to a halfway house. I did work on myself, and then I got to go. At one point, got to go back home. I didn't have a home. I was sleeping in the basement of my foreclosed house, my condo, and I'm telling you, it was visualization and prayer. I mean,
mm,
because I started walking the railroad tracks to go to the gym. A guy gave me a
mhm,
free membership. I'd watch a video. It was Dr. Dre. I need a doctor. And he was driving his Ferrari. I said, someday I'll build a house, I'll buy a Ferrari, boom, boom, boom. And I remember when I wanted to build a house, I finally got out of debt. I was in debt 780 grand or 720, whatever it was. That's 2012. Now, a couple years
mm,
later, I'm out of debt. I got back into business. God works with people. So the guy who got me sober, I saw him at a meeting. He looked kind of like a bum. Turns out he had a big job. He just went to a
mhm,
meeting, looked like a bum. He was there for me 100%. When I went to jail,
mm,
he'd call my mother to check in. He didn't even know my mother. The
mm,
real gold is this: the universe started lining up, and I was ready for it. I was ready. I never did a workshop. I'm not a public speaker. I don't pronounce my R's. I talk fast. I mumble. So I started teaching workshops in public speaking for a living, and I was
mm,
good at it. And I remember thinking, like, how am I doing this? Like, I don't even speak well. But then I realized it's all about your energy.
right,
It's all about what's inside. Like, you share your spirit with somebody, and you're going to align with the right people. The wrong people won't do business, and that's okay.
mm,
Next thing I knew, business just started taking off, and I did well. Then I did better than I ever did. Then I was doing 10 times what I used to do. And I thought to myself, how is this doing so well? Because I built on spiritual principles.
mm,
I really believe if you building on spiritual principles, being of service, because every religion out there teaches you lead and serve, right? Every
mhm,
good mentor, everybody who meditates, prays, anybody who takes time for their life to think of something greater realizes that if you're of service, that's where it starts. And I just started serving, and next thing I know, it got good. Then it got better. Then it
mhm.
got outrageously good.
Wow. Well, first of all, your mother was sending you those books and said you had to read them?
Yeah.
That she's the one that got you on that track. So God bless her.
Yeah, my mother and I have a very strained relationship right now, but I will give her credit. I will tell you this. When I was a kid, I would say to my mother, I want to get Nike Jordans, those sneakers.
Mhm.
She said, Ryan, I can't give you Nike Jordans, but I can give you God. And I used to say, "Well,
Wow.
keep it God. I want Jordans." When I was in a jail cell, I'll tell you right now,
Mhm,
was at one point I was in solitary confinement because I got in a fight,
mhm.
and I will tell you, God was the only thing I had. That was
Right.
it.
Yes, yes. Okay, that's so powerful, and I agree with you. I'm all in there. It's really about prayer and also meditation, but even if people just pray and don't do the meditation's also very good. So you're
Yeah.
saying you built yourself back up by reading the right books, praying, meditating, and just conquering your fears.
Yeah, I mean, and I do a lot of journaling. Every night I write a highlight
Mm.
film, 5 things that happened that day that would have happened if I was using drugs. I pray for
Mm,
5 new people. I write down their names and pray for them, and then I write a letter to
mm,
God. I was
mhm,
in a program, it was called Therapeutic Community. They teach you how to live because
mhm,
I was a psychopath. I was, you
mm,
don't stab people because you're healthy. And
mm,
woman said to me, "I want you to pray at night." I said, "I'm not praying." She said, "Well, no, you're going to pray at night. You have to pray to God." I said, "F that. Where was God when I was abused like you? Where was he here?" She
mm,
said to me, "Listen, I'm not asking you. Either you pray or I'll call your probation officer and you go back to jail." So, what do you want me to do? And she said, "Write a letter to God." She goes, "I don't care if it's nasty. Tell him to go F him." So the first week, I'm writing a letter to God. Go F yourself. Where are you here? I got scars here. What kind of, if you can't. And then about a week later, I had a good visit with my parents. I wrote, "Hey, I want to thank you. Today's visit actually went pretty well." I laughed. And then a week later, I'm like, writing. The kids I was in the house with, a lot of them were younger. And I
mm,
was like, these kids, I thought they were annoying me. They're cute young kids. It's funny watching them try to like enjoy life. Thanks for the moments of happiness. To this day, I write that letter.
mm,
And I will tell you, I've got a beautiful life. And when I start, it's all
mm.
about gratitude. Gratitude's an
Yes,
action word. I tell people,
yes,
don't tell me you're grateful. Show me. If you don't show me, then you're out. And
right.
that's the thing in life. People don't see the importance of gratitude, writing it down. Prayer is imperative. But I tell people, try to take 5 minutes. Set that insight timer that goes dong. And have it
Mm,
go off every minute for 5 minutes, even if you have to do that. If you
yes.
get 5 minutes or even 2.5 minutes to just sit quietly, I mean, the world comes to you because prayer is asking for things. Meditation, you're
Mhm.
listening to God's answers.
Right, right. And gratitude is so important. The more we're grateful, the more we unpeel layers of stuff that we can be grateful for that we take for granted. Like we have clean drinking water in this country. Most countries
Yeah.
don't have clean drinking water. So we are taking so much for granted. And the more you get deep in the gratitude, the more and more and more is uncovered and it just grows. So I'm with you on that. Okay, so this is amazing. Now tell us what happened when you got back on track. You run this company now. It's a management company?
Yeah, so I got back into finance and I focused just on retirement income planning. And
Mm,
what we do basically is people come to us at age 55 or older, usually in their early 60s,
mhm,
59. And we take their nest egg that they worked their backsides off to build. And we make sure they get guaranteed secure income for life. That's my job.
mm,
It's not about doubling money overnight and doing the latest hot stock. It's about taking money and creating secure income. Now, some people still want some money at risk in the stock market, and that's why I
mhm,
actually own another firm where they do that. I don't
mm.
handle it because 2008 stressed me out too much. I don't want stress. I'm
Right, right.
45 years old. I've already got to a point where I don't need more. So I just
Mhm,
now it's about enjoying life, being of service, and trying to
mm,
get some fulfillment. I love it. I'm part of people's it. Everybody says
mm,
when I retire, I'm going to do that. That's their it. Guess
mm,
what? I get to be a part of that. I get to help them achieve that it.
mm,
My job is awesome. I've never had a job. I've done this since 7th grade. I don't know
mm.
how to do a resume. I went on an interview.
Mhm,
But I know this, I fucking love what I do every day. Excuse my language, but I do.
mm,
And
mm,
it allows me to work around my daughter, and I just had a great
mhm,
custody thing on Wednesday, and it looks like we get my full 50-50 now.
mhm.
And, like, life comes together when I stay out of the way. It does.
Right. Okay, so what are you doing? You're taking their nest egg and you're investing it?
Yep. So we divide it up in different categories. The money they need for
Mhm,
immediate income, we'll use, like, a
mhm,
fixed tool such as an annuity, or
mhm,
sometimes they'll go with structured settlements through my
mhm,
brokerage. Then from there, money they can leave like 10, 15 years. They might want to put in the market with a securities firm. If they
mhm,
do that, they can invest it that way.
mhm,
Some of the money they might want safe. They use a tool, some insurance on it for the long game. It depends on
mhm,
the client's goal
mm.
and their temperament.
That is a great idea, and how long have you been running that?
Well, I mean, I took a break for a while while I was doing drugs. So I've been doing it 25 years. This firm is back up since 2012, 13. So
Okay, so you're doing the same thing you were doing before, but you had
just a
that
lot better.
the big blip, the drug blip and the prison and figuring and getting back on track. And okay, so this is something you were doing before. It's not a new
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I
wow.
knew it's just I'm more focused. Before we would do different types of tools. Now I have different companies I own that do other things, but I focus on the
Oh,
one thing I want to do.
okay. What's the name of this company?
Apex Retirement Services.
Okay, so in case anybody wants to look that up, obviously Ryan is an expert at that. So I have a question. Once you got over the drug period, do you feel that you're completely over it, or do you still struggle and have to pray every day for strength to stay off it?
For there were times where it was a struggle, and then when I really fell into the hole, when I really could convince myself there was something out there. It doesn't have to be religious, God, or
Mm,
some sort of
mm,
diet deep, but there's something out there.
mhm,
And when I turn it over, I really pray and say, and I think I'm tapping into something.
mhm,
My obsession was removed. I'm a guy who I would have been able to
mm,
get up at 8 a.m. and pass a lie detector saying I would never do drugs again. And by 10 a.m., there'd be a needle in my arm. That was my
mm,
life. And now, through the
mhm.
grace of God and great people and just so many blessings,
Yes.
I never think about getting high.
Mm,
The price is too high right now. Before the
right.
price is the house, the car, that sort of stuff. That's great. I've
Mm,
got all the outside crap. The price now is my daughter, time with
yeah.
my daughter, giving her a good
Hmm.
life, using money to
Yes.
go to her. She's got autism, so she has some special needs. My job is to
Mm,
be of service to my daughter. That's my
right.
purpose the rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're saying that the reason was there was an emptiness. There was a vacuum and now there's no vacuum. So
Yeah, I was very soul sick. I'll be honest with you. I didn't realize
yeah.
at the time, but I was a very
Mhm.
I was an empty human being.
Wow. Wow. Now also you coach people. Is that something that you do on the side, or is that just because you're passionate about helping other people?
Yeah, so that kind of evolved by accident, to be very honest. So what happened was I have other advisors call me and say, listen, like, because the average advisor probably brings on $2 or $3 million a year of assets.
Mhm.
And now I'm not a securities advisor, but as a retirement income planner, same type of industry. Most people take on $2 to $3 million a year, maybe four.
Mm.
We
Mhm.
take on 3 to 6, maybe $7 million a month. So we're doing
Mm.
10 times what everyone else does. And so they're like, how are you doing this?
Mm.
And so my answer is, I'll share with you because people are like, how's this guy doing it? He was a junkie. He doesn't pronounce his R's. Like some of these guys are Ivy League and whatnot. They're wondering.
Mhm.
So I said I would share it with them. Say, oh, I do this, this, and this. I pray before each client meeting that can be a service. While growing
Mhm.
our business, I do this and that. I journal about the client and how I can service them, make their life better, money
Mm.
aside. Nobody wants to do the legwork. Everybody wants the car, the house, the flashy shit, but nobody wants to do the work. It's kind of like the gym. Nobody wants to work out, but everyone wants to be in shape, right?
No, that's so I mean, not everybody, but it's so true that, let's say, many people, most people don't, they
Yeah, the
want fairy
majority.
dust. They want the answer and they want the fairy dust, but they're
I
they're
like the
not
fair dust say.
really greedy about, fairy dust sprinkle on your head and
Yeah,
loads
I
of
like
cash
that.
just falls all over your head. This is what I, because I'm a coach as well. No, some people do, but it is few people really want to do the work. Um, how do you get people past that? Or do you just pick clients that don't do want to do the work?
I think when somebody's coming to sign up as a client, they're open to doing the work. You know what I mean? When
Hmm.
people are asking questions, it's
Yeah.
one thing. But when people like
Yes.
somebody who's going to call you, for example, they know you're the real deal.
Hmm.
They know that most likely you might be able to give them a better rate here and there because you said to help people. You're more about being a service than just money. But they know you're a high end coach, and they know if they
Hmm.
come to you, there's a reason. And
Yes.
they're not gonna. Those people are probably willing to put in work. Same here. The folks in my industry that came to me, some were
Hmm.
asking questions, and some were almost jealous and angry because I had success. But others were
Yes.
just like, "Hey, you're doing great. What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I would help them. I say, "Hey, why don't we get on a call once a week? And we'll do this, this, and this."
Mhm.
And I was helping 2 or 3 guys, and it didn't bother me. One gal,
Mhm.
and then one guy. There's a guy. There was somebody else. I said, "I can't think of any more people. I'm helping these guys out. I like mentoring, but." The guy says, "Listen, why do you charge? I'll pay you." And I said, "I don't,
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't really need the money, and I feel bad shaking it." But he's like,
Mhm.
"Listen, Ryan, you can help me. What would you charge?" And I asked what he made. He had made 140 the year before. I
Mhm.
said, okay, what do you grow at what rate? He's like, anywhere from 2%. Some years I don't even grow. I said, let's say
Mm.
we grow to 150 ish or even 160 on your own. He goes, okay,
Mm.
why? I go, you'll see. From that point on, why do you give me 20% of what you earn? I won't take a dollar other than that. He's like,
Mm.
great. So
Mm.
next year he makes like, I think it was like 380, 400, right?
Mhm.
And so he has to give me a check for 20% of the difference. So it's like, what is it, 20 grand or so, 30, 40
Mhm.
grand, whatever it was. And he's like, well, yeah, but that's a lot of money, right? And I was like,
Mm.
we had a deal. And he gave it to me, but he was like
Mhm.
hemming and hard. I thought, you bastard, I didn't charge you. I invested in you. I banked on you. And if you didn't do well, I was screwed. You have never had a record deal like that. I tripled your income. I mean, together we did it. But
Yes.
it's funny how people are. Now to this day, he's a client. He's like, you know what?
Yes.
He's like, I can't believe you're absolutely right. And now
Mhm,
he's, he pays quarterly. We have a set rate.
mhm.
I mean, I have one guy who paid me 20 grand. We had a deal, 20 grand a month, 6 months to help him transition to a certain thing. And we did
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
Um, but because, like you, I'm all in with people. So I say, if
Yeah.
you don't want to pay me $500, you're not going to get $500. I won't give you any
Yeah.
service. I make too much. But,
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If somebody has no money, I'll do anything free for them. It'll help anyone.
Sure.
But
Sure.
if somebody's got a couple bucks, you want to go somewhere where you get if you spend 500, you want to coach you. That means a lot to you because you need that time.
Yes. Yes.
If you want to pay so you get that block of time because I'm like you, I'm all in. If I'm helping somebody, I'm looking when I'm not talking to them. Most of my work's behind the scenes, prepping for them,
Mhm.
looking at where we can make growth.
Mm.
So
Mm.
you understand that.
No, but that is interesting. You bring up a very interesting point. People always go, "Yeah, I wanna pay that commission," and then when it works, they don't wanna pay out the commission. It's a common thing. I know now a lot of people I readily pay commission. I love paying commissions because it worked, and well, let's do that over again, right?
Exactly. I have no problem paying money. It's like marketing money.
Exactly, it's fantastic. Sure, you did that for me. I'm totally gonna pay you. Let's do that over again. But unfortunately, people aren't really that professional or business minded to know that they're destroying relationships by going back on their word to save a buck, you know?
They're looking for the quick hit.
Yeah, but also it's like, "Sure, I'll do that." Then when it works, it's like, "Oh, gee, that worked, but now I don't wanna part with that money."
It's crazy. I had a guy who got to do a workshop. He was making money, and he's like, "I don't want to do it more." I'm like, "Well, you just made money off it. Why would you want to do more?" It's like pretty.
Because you know what? I call that the take the money and run types,
Yes, yeah.
right? So take the money
I
and
thought I
run.
was the only one who saw those type of people. I'm like, why are they investing more in this?
It's
You got
everywhere.
to invest more in yourself.
But no, but it's also about keeping your word and having work ethic, and also, if it worked once, don't you wanna do that over and over again rather than take the money once and then annoy
Yeah.
somebody and they're never gonna wanna refer another person as long as they live? Why do it?
A lot of people take the money and then they go to look for a new way to do things to get business. At least in my business, they're always looking for like the new thing because if this
Right,
doesn't work, I always say,
right.
take what we have, let's craft it a little. As long as it's
Yeah.
providing money and income for you. If you're doing
Mm,
5 workshops, my workshops cost me about 25 grand a month, right?
yeah.
If I was doing them and I had 3 months in a row where I made 25 or less,
Mhm,
or if I have a month that I make zero, but the next month I make 90, the next month I make 80, I'm gonna say,
mhm.
"Hey, you know what? I'll keep playing it out as long as I'm coming out in the positive." Plus, you're
Exactly.
building relationships. Even if you're just making a little off each day, you've got
Yeah,
a new client, and that person might know somebody, and you're servicing
right.
people, and you're in that energy of positivity. That's what
Yes.
matters.
Well, it sounds to me you already have a very healthy business. It sounds like the coaching is just because you started off wanting to be of service, but it still has to be worth your time eventually.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying that the people that you coach are only people in your industry and you're showing them kind of
No, not anymore. Now it branched out. So now
okay.
it's, guys that want to have a big life change, guys that,
Mm,
some guys are drug addicts, alcoholics, but other guys are just in bad marriages. They're unhealthy. They're
mm,
in bad shape. I
mm,
tell guys,
mm.
when I work with somebody, it's not going to be just, it has to be something greater, spirituality. It doesn't have to be God or anything, but spirituality. It has
Yes.
to be fitness. Your finances have to be
Mhm.
in order, your family, your relationships, and like
Yes.
your future. What's your goal? Like, where do you want to be? And
Your
so
purpose.
I have a couple of gals I've coached. I'm a little rough on the edge when I say things, so they have to be able to take it. Like some girls are
Mm,
really sensitive, some are smart.
yes.
These gals want to have success. So I'm like, listen. Sometimes they'll say something, and I will say, hey, fuck that noise. We're not doing this.
Mm,
And I have that relationship with them. So, but the majority of people I coach are either in sales or some sort of sales industry they want to
mhm,
grow,
mhm.
or a guy trying to have a life change.
Got it. This has been like a miraculous comeback, and a lot of people most people don't come back from heroin. I don't know what the numbers are, but let's say it's most, right? Don't come back from heroin
Yeah,
ever.
it's a third of a percent.
There you go. Third of a percent. Wow. It's a death sentence. So this has been so interesting. So Ryan, what do you want to leave people with? What's your main like philosophy or mindset? That if you could say, let's say that you met somebody once and you're never going to see them again, and you're going to give them a bit of wisdom from your point of view. What would you tell that person?
There's a couple of things I would say. One, well, for me, if anybody if remembers me or hears about me, and it matters like what I have and what I drive and stuff like that, then I'm a failure if that's what I'm remembered by. I want to be
Mm,
remembered as a dad. My legacy as a dad, somebody who's of service. But I always say the best advice I give people, the best thing I think of is what what do you do for people who do nothing for you? Of course,
mm,
I'm a service my clients. I make big money, right? You get
mhm,
paid. You're doing well, of
mhm,
course. What do you do when there's that person on the street begging for $1? Do you buy them
Mhm.
some food, give them some money, or do you look at 'em like they're a street junkie? So
Mm.
how you treat the least is how you treat, God or the universe.
Mm.
So that's what defines you.
So really just treat others well no matter what, not because you're gonna get
Yeah,
something from it.
absolutely, without a doubt.
Amen to that. Well, Ryan, this has been very interesting. I appreciate you turning up, and I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Everybody, please subscribe, share this episode, and we'll see you on the next one. You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jean Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jean Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact.